Is salt bad for you? I want to talk about that in today's video because I just got done reading a book about salt, and this was very eye-opening and very interesting. I like to delve into health and whatnot. I've done a few videos and products about health-related stuff, and I was really like, the more I think about it, the more I'm very interested in like how some science seems to be totally wrong, and they're telling you the wrong stuff and they're not letting you know about it. And that is the case with salt here. We're gonna get into that in today's video. First of all, hi to all the new dads out there. This is Dad Reviews. This is where I give you my unedited, hopefully more authentic look at the products that we like, use, and have, and I read because I find it interesting. So if you're interested in that, you might want to consider clicking that subscribe button. So I've been doing the carnivore diet for a little while now. I don't know if y'all have seen my previous videos about the carnivore code book and the carnivore diet book that I've done, and I did some reviews of beef jerky and that type of stuff, and I was in a Facebook community about it, and somebody mentioned salt, asking about salt, and you know, I've heard about salt, so I've been having some salt. And somebody mentioned this book called The Salt Fix. It says Why the Experts Got It All Wrong and How Eating More Might Save Your Life by Dr. James, I don't know how to say this, it's Italian, De Nicolas, I don't know how to say his last name, but this was extremely interesting because I see the same thing happened to salt as what happens with like fat and cholesterol. It's like literally the same type of thing. And it seems like the biggest mistake that we as humans have made is that we've started consuming copious amounts of sugar and not enough of the actual things that we need, like salt. So this book, the chapters in it, I'm just gonna kind of go through it because I read the whole thing, and I want to talk to you guys about like what's in each chapter. So the first one is, but doesn't salt cause high blood pressure? And this was really interesting because he goes into a lot of the studies that have been done and how it's like that fact that salt equals high blood pressure is only a hypothesis. It's never been totally proven, and there have been like science data that's been thrown out and some that's been manipulated in certain ways to make it prove it that it goes one way against the other because there's industry that wants to be able to have their science their way. And another thing, chapter 2 is We Are Salty Folk. That was probably one of the most interesting chapters because it talks about evolution and how before humans were even on the earth, before dinosaurs, whenever all animals were in the water, right? The water is salty for the most part. And eventually, we had to evolve to be able to live outside of that salty water, but still get salt. Because without salt, like if you were to completely cut out all the salt in your body, you would die. In fact, I was watching a video, your body recirculates 540 grams of salt every single day. So you need salt, and this particular chapter goes into that whole evolutionary aspect of why we need salt and why we seek out salt, and how elephants go and find salt licks because they need salt because they're mammals, and mammals you need salt. All living things, well, all animals need salt. It's very interesting. So then it goes into the war against salt and how we demonize the wrong right crystal. So he starts now talking about the difference between salt and sugar, kind of getting into that paradigm shift that was happening there. And he goes into what really causes heart disease, and he starts to tap into some of those, the sugar and the cholesterol and fats and all that type of stuff, and the saturated fats, how that's actually good for you, and it makes good cholesterol that you need as long as you're getting it from good places, and how your body utilizes that as fuel whenever you're in ketosis. Just a whole game changer right there. And he goes into We Are Starving Inside, and he was talking about like how much salt you need, what that salt is good for, how your body utilizes the salt in your body. Chapter 6 is The Crystal Rehab, Using Salt Cravings to Kick the Sugar Addiction. I did not know this, but apparently if you're like have a really high sweet tooth or whatever, to kind of help diminish some of that, you can put more salt on your food, because your taste buds want that salt, and it'll help to starve away some of the sugar cravings that you're having. So that was really interesting, and you got to read the book to delve more into it. If you guys want to check this book out too, I'll link it up down in the description below. Y'all can go read other people's reviews about it, not just take my word for it. I'll link up the audio book to it down in the description below as well, if you guys prefer to listen to it as an audio book. Number 7 is, how much salt do you really need? Like I said, your body is recycling the salt that's in it already through the kidney. 540 grams. The US government says you should get like around 2,000 milligrams, which would be like 2 grams, which would be hardly anything. And so this goes into how much you need. And they've done some studies looking at populations of high salt countries like Japan and Korea, where they eat a lot of seafood. They have kimchi, fermented things all made with salt, sushi and that type of stuff, seaweeds. And they said that those countries, some of the population areas, can get up to 30 grams of salt per day. And they're all doing fine, and those are actually some of the places with the lowest amount of high blood pressure and hypertension. It was just so interesting to have like all that data, because I'd never seen any of this data before. I never really realized how important salt was. So it was so interesting. And then the last chapter is the salt fix, give your body what it really needs. And so it just kind of gives you some principles to go by whenever you're intaking your salt and whatnot, what you actually need, what you don't need. Some of the better salts, that was one really interesting. It was actually a graph that's in there. They showed the difference between there's the Redman sea salt, which comes from a salt mine in Utah. There's iodized salt, there's sea salt, and there's Celtic salts. 4 different kinds. There's the Hawaiian salts, I think, or something like that. There's a few different ones. And it goes in and it tells you like all of the minerals and the vitamins that you get from those salts, how much is actually in there, and which one they would recommend that you get based on your diet. So that was super interesting. I definitely want to go out and get some of that Redmond sea salt now, because it's got iodine, a lot of iodine. It's got calcium, magnesium, and potassium. If you guys want to check out Redmond sea salt, I'm gonna link that up down in the description below as well, because I was just so. In fact, I'll find some of these, like the salt. Let's go on a dad reviews field trip, guys. Come on, let's go take a look at the salt that we're using. We actually shop at Costco, and we find these big vats of things, but this is right here is just pure sea salt right there, and sea salt was one of the ones that they listed on there. It doesn't give you though all of the mineral information on the nutrition facts. I really wish that it would, so that you had a better idea of what you were actually getting in your salt. But we've used that one. We used a pink Himalayan sea salt in the past. So I've used a lot of sea salts. I've never heard of Celtic salts or the Hawaiian sea salts, which look very interesting, but I've seen Redmond sea salt, and I want to find me some of that, because that looks really interesting. Then also in the back, he has 3 appendices, and one is like literally pages and pages of all of the studies that he references throughout the book. I mean, like this book is only 188 pages or so if you take out all of the references. The first appendix, it kind of goes on a timeline of what happened with salt and how we got into this way of demonizing salt and making it bad. And then he goes into all of his notes. His notes go from page, this is mind-boggling, 199 all the way, just to show you how well researched this is, to 247. So there's literally about 50 pages of references throughout this entire book. I thought that was astonishing. I love well-referenced books. Another appendix here is the salt content of your favorite foods. So if you want to be able to know how much salt is in some of them, they have some of the favorites right there. And then there was also drugs that can increase a need for salt. Right here, he kind of goes through and lists some things there. Another thing that I learned about this is you have a craving for salt. Whenever you taste salt, you can feel it in your taste buds. And I've actually been testing this out because I started intaking a lot more salt. And as I intake my salt, I'm noticing that salt reaction on my tongue is not as high as it used to be because I'm taking in more and more salt, which I find very interesting. And the way the guy explained this to me is, it's in the book, it's kind of like a thermostat. You have a salt thermostat in your body, and it has to stay at this particular degree, if you will. It has to have so much salt in there, and it's going to use your kidneys as a way to either keep recycling salt, or if you're intaking more salt, you can excrete more salt, but it's going to keep it at this that 540 grams that you definitely need of salt in your body. So your body is actually craving salt. You need to give it salt, and I was blown away by it. So a test that I'm doing right now is, I read that he also talks about electrolytes and how salt is a good electrolyte for the body so that you're not as fatigued after working out. So I didn't know about all this salt stuff, and I would work out, I'd do a HIIT workout, and the next like 2 days, I would just be like cramping and body aches, and it was just a tiredness. It was really getting me down because I really wanted to work out. And then I read this thing about salt, and you need to have electrolytes, you know, before and after you work out. So I started taking more salt in. And so I did a workout today, actually, and I'm really curious to see tomorrow and the next day if I'm gonna have any of those excruciating pains that I was having, muscle pains and whatnot from the workout. So maybe I'll do a follow-up video of that, and you guys can, if you guys want to click that subscribe button, you guys can see that. But if you guys want to know a little bit more about the cholesterol myth that goes around, I've done a few book reviews of the books that I've read about cholesterol and the keto diet. I'm gonna put my favorite one right there on the screen. You guys go click that video. I'll see y'all in that video. Thank you, dads, for watching. That thumbs up is appreciated, and dad out. Here's to your health.